This is a message from sponsor Intuit TurboTax. Taxes was getting frustrated by your forms. Now, Taxes is uploading your forms with a snap, and a TurboTax expert will do your taxes for you. One who's backed by the latest tech, which cross-checks millions of data points for absolute accuracy, all of which makes it easy for you to get the most money back, guaranteed. Get an expert now at TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live Full Service. See guaranteed details at TurboTax.com/guarantees.
Hi, this is Javon, your Blinds.com design consultant.
Oh, wow. A real person.
Yep. I'm here to help with everything from selecting the perfect window treatments to...
Well, I've got a complicated project.
No problem. I can even help schedule a professional measure and install. We can also send you samples fast and free.
I just might have to do more.
Whatever you need.
So the first room we're looking at is for...
Shop Blinds.com now and save up to 45% site-wide. Blinds.com. Rules and restrictions may apply.
A better way. Hey, where you been? Buckeye Talk is about to begin. Hey, come on in.
Welcome back to Buckeye Talk. I'm Stephen Means and Stefan Krajisnik. Andrew is off seeing a recruit because Ohio State continues to be busy on the recruiting trail. They've got two commitments this week and one shutdown of a recruitment from Chris Henry Jr. They got Blaine Bradford, the 5-star safety out of Louisiana, on Monday. And then on Thursday, while we were in the Woody talking with the offensive line, they got Simeon Caldwell, the top 100 linebacker / safety out of Florida, who also just so happens to be Tim Walton's nephew, excuse me. So there's some family ties there as well. He's the number 9 commitment in that class. We did a video on YouTube. Go look at that. Just type in Buckeye Talk on YouTube and you'll find our channel. Andrew and I talking about that. And we'll probably talk about that more next week. But we talked to the big boys, Stefan, on Thursday afternoon. And we're going to go super short with this, mainly because I felt like Stefan was us asking a lot of the same questions we've been asking of Ryan Day the last couple of weeks when it comes to the offensive line. And we're 24 hours as people are listening to this pod from seeing how much of this is real, how much of this isn't. But this idea of cross-training guys, and it's not new. Ohio State's done this in the past. But the way Tyler Bowen described it, literally everybody who isn't a true freshman or named Ethan Owenyawa, because that's what Ryan Day said, is working at multiple spots. And it's because they're just trying to throw as much at guys as possible to see what they have and where they have it. And it feels funneled through Austin Seroveld more than literally anybody else, because as Tyler Bowen said, Austin Seroveld is playing everywhere but center right now.
Yeah, I think we saw, in the couple hours of open practices that we had at the start of the spring, the thing that immediately popped was Austin Seroveld playing left tackle. Then it kind of sparked this conversation of, we saw what happened last year with Donovan Jackson. It doesn't hurt to cross-train some guys and have some guys ready, in different roles if their number's called, even if they're not, starting there when week 1 against Texas arrives. It's been happening, I think, maybe more than we thought that first practice or two, right? Like, we thought, okay, Austin Seroveld's getting some reps at left tackle. Well, he's telling us that he's working 50-50 between left tackle and right tackle. Ian Moore is playing both tackle spots. Guys are moving all over the offensive line, like you said, with the exception of the true freshman and Ethan Owenyawa. So I don't know. It's probably unfair to say this is like, we can't name this the Donovan Jackson thing because Tyler Bowen said he's done it at previous stops. Like, he did it while he was the offensive coordinator at Virginia Tech. So, Ohio State's done it in the past. But I think we saw how important it was with Donovan Jackson last year and the situation you can end up with if a few injuries come up and things don't go your way. So maybe we can you have to name it after someone at some point, and maybe we can be the first ones to name it after Donovan Jackson. But this is a team that has emphasized something and saw the importance of it in action. And now it's easy, I think, to portray that message to other guys. I think it's easy to tell guys, hey, just because you're not working 100% at right guard, that doesn't mean that you're not going to win the right guard starting battle. Like Austin Serveld could very well be this team's starting right guard. Him working at left tackle does not eliminate him from that conversation. So it's funny to just watch it all kind of unfold since Donovan Jackson had to step in at left tackle, because now it seems like Ohio State's at the forefront of this crazy idea when in reality there's a lot of programs that are probably doing it. But Ohio State's a team that won a national championship in the midst of it. And it's a point of emphasis, no doubt, especially like in a spring where Ohio State's not doing a whole ton, right? Like we know that some practices have gotten, chippy and ramped up a bit, and maybe we'll see some of that Saturday. Maybe we'll see some of that in the spring game. But for the most part, it's been fairly, easy going, I guess would be the best word, just because this is a team that played, less than 2.5 months ago. So they're holding back a little bit. But this is something you can get out of it, is that it lets you kind of rotate and experiment and maybe not get any answers, but maybe get some, I guess, a picture of what things will look like when, that first week of August rolls around.
It's because it doesn't matter who's going to win the right guard job right now.
Right.
Tyler Bowen got asked about, do you have any number of starters? He's like, I don't want to get into that right now, because he didn't have to get into that necessarily. To the Donovan Jackson point, they won a natty, so it's the Donovan Jackson thing.
Right.
But they had 2021, they did this with Matthew Jones, where he was rotating in with Paris Johnson and Thayer Munford at the time at the two guard spots. So some of that was health stuff. But again, that's why Donovan Jackson was playing left tackle. It's because of health stuff. But it's just the idea of it being a plan and not a reaction is fascinating to me, because it's not the way we think about offensive line. We look at offensive line the way we look at quarterback, where it's like, nope, this is your starters, these are your backups. You play these guys. If you have 70 offensive plays, these starters are going to be out there for 70 offensive plays unless something crazy happens. And now, because of this 17 game season, because of the injuries Ohio State had on the offensive line last year, because they've developed such depth on the interior, while also Austin Serveld all of a sudden, oh wait, he can play tackle. Do you like it? I guess it's spring. Like they can say all this right now, and then we get the Texas game, and they find their starting five, where Ethan Owen Yahweh is their left tackle, and Carson Hinsman their center, and then the other three positions are whatever they are, and they play all 70 snaps. But are you starting to wonder whether this is actually more than just lip service, and they play Texas, and 8 different guys play meaningful snaps against Texas?
I like the idea. I've been supportive of the rotation of the offensive line these last couple months, because I don't think it's a ludicrous idea, because we just saw it in action. We saw it help a team win a national championship. So at the very least, I like the idea of being prepared for it, right? Like I'm not opposed to getting to August, and if you're going into week 1, like I understand Ethan Owenyawa's got NFL prospects and he can be, an NFL guy, but like if he's still kind of working into it and he's having to, he's spent a lot of time this spring kind of just getting his body right. If he's still, working into it, why not that Texas game have him and whether it's Serveld or even more, whoever it may be, share some reps at left tackle, right? This schedule is just so fascinating, because you have such a big game week 1 that I know we say it's not a must-win game, but when you're in it, it's gonna, once you get there, it's gonna feel like, all right, gotta win this game. And then you got the schedule easing up a bit. Like, do you have to have starters for Texas and then experiment against Ohio and Grambling and whoever else they have on the schedule? Or can you rotate and experiment a bit against Texas too? And maybe you win that game, maybe you lose that game, but then you can kind of keep experimenting for the next 3 or 4 weeks. And I don't know. I really want to see how they do it, because I'm not opposed to it. Like, what are your thoughts on it? Do you think whoever starts at left tackle that Texas game has to play, barring any garbage time, every rep at left tackle for Ohio State against Texas?
I think it's a wonderful fall camp question because I do think having to play a potentially number 1, number 2 matchup to start the season throws a wrench in some things, because you just kind of hinted at it. There's getting through the Texas game, and then there's what you can do with Grambling State and OU before you go to a bye, right? it almost are they going to rotate guys on September 6th and September 13th? Yes. I'm just going to go ahead and have that take up. Sure, I'm expecting to see 10 different guys play offensive line. But also, we live in a world where it's a 12-team playoff, and if you lose that Texas game, your season's still not on the line, right? I mean, this team lost to the best team on their schedule last year. They lost to during the regular season, and then they lost a rivalry game, and they still made the playoff. So now that you don't live in this world where you need to have it figured out every single week, because if you don't, then your season is over before it gets started. I am a little bit more open to it, but I am wondering. I really hate that they're playing Texas. I don't like week one high key because you just don't know anything. You don't, and it's a lot of sloppy football in week one across the board
Right.
because you haven't tackled anybody in 8 months. You're working stuff out, and you're just not getting a true evaluation of what your team is. I really wish this game was the following week.
It's also like it's so hard to have a plan too if that happens, because you could say, okay, Ethan Owinyawa is the starting left tackle, and we're going to work some things, and then he struggles against Texas, and you tell yourself, okay, well, we're sticking to this script.
Yeah,
It gets really loud in this place when you lose week one against Texas.
yeah.
And there's going to be people who are going to be done with Ethan Owinyawa if he struggles against Texas. And you have to have a very strong foundation, very strong culture, which I think Ohio State has, but it has to be very strong to look at Ethan Owinyawa and say, hey, I know you struggled, and I know everyone wants Cereville to not be the starting left tackle, but we're going to keep rotating you guys like we planned against Grambling in Ohio. And when we get to Washington, it's still going to be like it's going to be hard to do that when you got that game week one.
Right, because you if as a coach you probably want to lean towards safe and security, and what do you trust to get through that moment, and then you can get all experimental. But I mean, Austin Cereville being an Iron Buckeye is an interesting, especially because of who he's an Iron Buckeye with. He's an Iron Buckeye with the best player in college football, and a guy where PFS been putting out their annual list of best guys returning at each position. Sonny Styles was like 6th amongst the linebackers, so that's 2 of the best 50 players in college football, and Austin Cereville. Right? Like, if I'd have told you're learning still about some of these culturistic things, but if you looked at that list and you see the best player in college football and one of the 10 best linebackers in college football, you're probably thinking to yourself, Stefan, okay, being an Iron Buckeye is a pretty big deal. That means you're one of the best players in the country, not just on this team. Well, if Austin Cereville's in that world, and this is a guy where you got him repping at 4 different positions, and we get to week one, and the plan is, here's our starting 5, and then you might look out there, and the second series, Austin Cereville's playing right guard. The third series, Austin Cereville's playing right tackle. The 7th series, Austin Cereville's playing left tackle. I no longer hate it. I don't. Well, for the record, we never hated it. Andrew hated it, but I am now team rotate your offensive line. If Austin Cereville, who I thought physically looked pretty good today, that's the one thing with offensive linemen, you can kind of see the physical growth consistently because they're so big and kind of they're trying to keep unrealistic weight standards of somehow make 6'5", 320 pounds look like you're in shape, which is just not realistic. I thought he looked like a dude where if you told me he's going to play 25 pass reps against Colin Simmons, I'd be like, okay, cool.
Could Austin Cereville have the most? I'll keep Hinsman out of this conversation just because I think he's going to be the starting center, and that's not, and Cereville's not working at center. So let's make center out of this. Let's look at the other 10 positions on offense. Could Austin Cereville have the most snaps played without having the most snaps played at one position? Like, he won't have the most snaps at left tackle. He won't have the most snaps at left guard. Won't have the most at right guard. Won't have the most at right tackle. But he's got more snaps played than Tegra Shabola. He's got more snaps played than Luke Montgomery. Like, I think that could happen. I think it would be very fascinating. But it's like, I think we saw last year that Tegra Shabola started playing better when he wasn't playing a million reps. And maybe he's more prepared for that this year. I'm open to that. But it's like, if that's the case, we see defensive ends play better in the fourth quarter if they're not playing a million snaps in the first quarter. Like, could it happen with offensive line? Could Tagovailoa get some reps off in the first quarter, and then boom, in the second quarter, it's Luke Montgomery that comes off, and then it's late second quarter, and now Ethan Owenyawa is coming. Like, it's a crazy concept just because no one's like done it. But if you got a guy like Austin Sareveld, the thing to me is just seeing him at left tackle at the start of spring. It was one thing because it was just like, okay, they're just they're being prepared just in case.
Yeah.
This dude winning Iron Buckeye and being such a voice in the room, I just really struggle to think he's not going to have a massive role with this team come August, September.
You don't do all this and then play 214 snaps.
Right.
That's just not
maybe it's as simple as him being the starting right guard. Maybe he just beats out Tagovailoa and that's where we see him all year. I'm open to that. But with his versatility, he kind of seems to be this like master key that they can just use in so many ways.
Which is why when we just say, oh, Donovan Jackson did it, and so now they have a new idea, I think that's just not giving it credit to them trying to maximize their personnel. Right? Donovan Jackson was awesome at left tackle, but it just seems like Austin Sareveld, which Tyler Bowen said across the board, he has not had a lot of missed opportunities, the mistakes, regardless of what position he's playing. This is not a reaction to Donovan Jackson had to play left tackle for the last 6 or 7 games of the year, and it worked. This is a reaction to Austin Sareveld played 40 snaps against Oregon, 17 snaps against Texas because he wasn't fully healthy, and 27 snaps against Notre Dame where he was flip-flopping back and forth between left guard and right guard, breakdown by position. Against Tennessee, he played 27 snaps at left guard, 19 snaps at right guard. Against Oregon, he played 28 snaps at left guard, 12 snaps at right guard. He only played 17 snaps against Texas, and they were all at right guard, rotating with Tagovailoa. And then he played 27 snaps in the national championship game, rotating with Tagovailoa. Because, again, I think he was just hurt. The first 2 playoff games are a better indication of how they view Austin Sareveld than the last 2 ones, where it's a combination of him being hurt, but also Luke Montgomery trying to play like a dude. I think it's a reaction to that. It's a reaction to Austin Sareveld and going, oh, buddy, we might have something here. He might not be a starter in the terms of he's the guy who's out there for the first offensive snap every single game. But I'm with you. There is a world where he might lead this offensive line in snaps. And it's sprinkled. Let's just say he plays 600 snaps next year. And I don't even know how much is the most that an offensive lineman played. The most snaps by an offensive lineman was Donovan Jackson. Okay, so let's 18-16. So let's just say Austin Sareveld plays.
Probably Josh Fryer now.
Yeah, actually, he played 9-28. Good for because he didn't miss any games.
Right.
That's what it is. He was just out there. So let's just say the most of a returning guy is Tegra. He played 774. So let's just say Austin Sareveld plays 800 snaps next year, but it's 200 at left tackle, 200 at left guard, 200 at right guard, 200 at right tackle. I'm with it. Because then it also, what that does is, instead of Ethan Owenyawa playing 800 snaps at left tackle, he played 600 snaps. And if Carson Hinsman, I mean, that's a different conversation. That's like a Carson Hinsman, Josh Padilla conversation. But instead of Luke Montgomery playing 800 snaps at left guard or right guard, he played 600. And on down the list there, not only does it maximize your group, maybe it gets you to the finish line.
Yep.
With your top 7 still healthy, instead of being at the Rose Bowl where your starting center and starting left tackle are on the sideline in street clothes.
Yeah, I struggled to think that in this new college football playoff era where Ryan Day spent so much time last season talking about, wanting to keep the running backs fresh and the receivers fresh and the defensive ends fresh and linebacker. Like, why? Just because traditionally offensive lines are 5 guys and those 5 guys are out there, I struggle to think that Ryan Day goes into Tyler Bowen's office or last year Justin Fry's office and says, hey, all this stuff about keeping guys fresh, it's a long season. It doesn't apply to your room. Don't worry about it. I struggle to believe that. And I think a guy like Austin Sareveld is such an X factor in that conversation for Ohio State. There can't be a world in which he has this offseason. He talked about how the day after the national championship game, or maybe it was the day after the celebration, I can't remember. He kind of sat down and talked to coaches and was like, these are the things that I have to do. These are the things I want to do. He very clearly, to me, we didn't talk about him, and we maybe still aren't talking about him as like a potential captain, right? Like we've said, okay, we think Sonny Styles is going to be what's up.
We probably should be at this point.
Because we were talking about, Sonny Styles is probably a captain. And then, Carson Hinsman's maybe in that conversation. And Brandon Innes, he's been a leader. Does Jeremiah Smith take a step? Is Caleb Downs ready to be a captain? Like we talked about all. And Austin Sareveld didn't get brought up in that conversation. I think we might have even brought up Luke Montgomery. I don't know if we were talking about Austin Sareveld. I think right now I'd probably pencil him in. I would maybe say Sonny and Austin Sareveld are the two guys I'm most confident in being captains right now. Because that's the type of offseason we've seen from Sareveld. He has forced himself to be part of this conversation. He has forced himself to be in a spot where we can't talk about this offensive line without mentioning him in any role.
He's a good driving the bus candidate at this point. And to your point of what Day is talking about with the keeping guys fresh, it worked at literally every other position. Offensive line was the only position that was compromised when they got to the college football playoff. Now, were guys 100%? Of course not, right? JJ had a little hamstring thing going on, but it didn't keep him from being JJ, right? Like everybody else, for the most part, Will had the knot on his hand, but it didn't really impact anything. And there's guys wearing braces and stuff like that. And what happened with JT in the last 2 games with the ankle injury, that's a freak accident. But there was nothing holding this team back at literally every other spot but the offensive line. To the point that I'm looking at the play counts. Ohio State played in the last game of the entire season, and they were tied for 8th in total plays. They had 989 plays. UTSA played 999, and there are 6 other teams who played over 1,000 plays. I'm assuming Ohio State's going to play less than 1,000 plays this year if they play 16 games, because that's just how they might operate for things. To your point, though, about Austin Sareveld being a captain. So there's a picture going around of there being a team meeting, and they're doing typical stuff. I'm not going to say what they were doing, but first of all, it's always cool to see who's sitting in your seat. Like, who's your seat buddy? Because we're in there, obviously, doing it for press conferences, and then the team is in there doing press conferences. You want to know who you share a seat with?
I would love to know.
You share a seat with Taiwan Malone.
All right.
Yeah. Nobody sits next to Taiwan Malone. Stefan sits next to Bill Anderson and me. He sits in between us now.
Who's in Bill's seat?
Nobody's in Bill's seat. According to this picture, there's nobody in Bill's seat. I share a seat with CJ Hicks.
That's the most fitting thing possible.
I know it is. I was hoping your seat would be Arvell Reese, but he's in the row behind us next to JJ.
I'll move seats.
He's next to Jay. You want to know what it is? There's a series of seats that's Julian Sand, Arvell Reese, Jeremiah Smith in the 3rd row. It's hilarious. Front row. Front row is the most important. That's your leaders. That's always your leaders. All of your captains come from this row. Not everybody in the row is a captain, but this is a good... If you're a captain, you're in the front row. Caden Curry, Luke Montgomery, Sonny Styles, Carnell Tate, Caleb Downs, Davison Igbinosun, Austin Sareveld, Kenyatta Jackson, Carson Hinsman are in the front row. Brandon Innes is not, though. I am assuming the seat that's open, the seat that you're asking is Bill Anderson's, is probably Brandon Innes because I don't see him in the photo, and that dude's like captain material, so I would assume he's in the 2nd row. But that's your front row. Carson Hinsman, Kenyatta Jackson, Austin Sareveld, Davison Igbinosun, Caleb Downs, Carnell Tate, Sonny Styles, Luke Montgomery, and Caden Curry. That sounds right to me. That from that list, maybe there's your captains. And once again, there's Austin Sareveld right there in the mix of everything. I don't know if I was coming into this spring thinking Austin Sareveld was going to be this important. In fact, when he started in place of Donovan Jackson to start the year, I was a little shocked by that. But I think I've overlooked him a lot of his career because he was a lower rated recruited guy, but his recruitment came down to Alabama, Notre Dame, and Ohio State. That matters more to me than the number. So his role is maybe allowing Ohio State to do something that's a little abnormal, but it might be for the best of the room. But also, I don't know, someone's going to look at him on draft day and go, oh, you played high-level snaps at 4 out of the 5 offensive line positions. I'll take you with the 67th pick in the NFL draft. I like that. Team Austin Sierreveld over here now. I'm all in on Austin Sierreveld.
And another thing too that can tell you about the leadership aspect of it is the way that other guys talk about him. Not just Tyler Bowen, but I'm actually about to send this out to our texters. I asked, I think it was Ian Moore, Devontae Armstrong, and one more guy in there. I can't remember who it was now off the top of my head. Just about Sierreveld, what it means for him to be an Iron Buckeye, what he means to that room, and like those guys got Carson Hintzman. I think was the third guy talking about him. Like those guys got a ton of respect for Austin Sierreveld. I think Ian Moore was talking about like he's a guy who the rest of the offensive line looks up to. They're motivated by the way he works. It's like I think Ian Moore said he's not like the type of guy that'll go like yell in your face, but he'll pull aside a young guy and like let him know like, hey, you got to do this, you got to do that. Like he is very clearly a voice in that room, and we probably weren't talking enough about him, in February when we were previewing the spring, and he's probably one of the winners of the spring. And I guess the Iron Buckeye kind of tells you all you need to know there. But that's a dude who's really respected in his room. And Carson Hintzman also let us know that his nickname is Piggy, based on his Fortnite name. So as someone had asked, I don't want to. It was either like Austin Ward, maybe Joey. Someone asked about Austin Sierreveld, and Hintzman just started talking about it. He's like, "Yeah, I mean Piggy, man, he's great." And we were like, "Wait, what'd you just call him?" They were like, "Yeah, his name is Piggy." Then I pulled Carson aside. I was like, "Where did that come from?" He was like, "Yeah, that was his Fortnite username." So there you go. I pitched the idea in a video to, like the jack position is kind of this hybrid of like linebacker and defensive end. Piggy is just, if you can play every spot on the offensive line, you get the Piggy title.
You should
you passed, but I think you're coming around on the idea.
I mean, now I've had some time to think about it, so I respect it. For the record, Max Clare, I think, is the furthest to the front of the transfers. He's in the second row. I'm
looking at the same picture you are. And it's kind of tough to see.
Austin Sierreveld's a fascinating guy at this point, and maybe in a way that, again, I will admit, I will always admit if I've overlooked a guy. I said it with Tyleik Williams. I overlooked him. He ended up being a freaking dude the last 2 years, and now I'm hammering that he should be a first-round draft pick. I have no problem admitting when I'm wrong. I also just am not wrong a lot. It just kind of comes with the territory of things. I'm totally joking. But I just feel like everything about the offensive line flows through Austin Sierreveld in one way or another. Okay, let's take a break. That was 30 minutes of Austin Sierreveld talk. I don't even think I'm going to talk about Jeremiah Smith that long. But
Jeremiah, listen, he's not playing 4 spots on the offensive line.
No, he's not. He's not doing that. He's not. He's only got 3 spots he can play, but he's not playing 4. That's a good point. Let's take a break, and then we'll wrap up offensive line talk. Just some interesting things maybe we heard from other guys here on Buckeye Talk.
I was never really a runner. The way I see running is a gift, especially when you have stage 4 cancer. I'm Anne. I'm running the Boston Marathon, presented by Bank of America. I run for Dana-Farber Cancer Institute to give people like me a chance to thrive in life, even with cancer.
Join Bank of America in helping Anne's cause. Give if you can at BofA.com/supportAnne. What would you like the power to do? References to charitable organizations is not an endorsement by Bank of America Corporation. Copyright 2025.
It's time for basketball, and Uber Eats is dropping deals on game day favorites to keep you locked in on the action. Like when you're craving a buzzer beater, but also buffalo wings. Or when an upset makes you want to ugly cry into a pizza. And right now, Uber Eats has game day deals from McDonald's, Popeyes, Pizza Hut, Wendy's, and hundreds more local favorites. So you can keep your eyes on the ball and your hands on a hamburger. Order now, only on Uber Eats. Product availability varies by region. See app for details.
Lowe's knows member-only doorbuster deals make SpringFest savings even better. Right now, rewards members can get 3 19.3-ounce Bonnie Plants vegetables and herbs for just $10. Plus, save $50 on a Charbroil Performance Series 4-burner grill, now $149. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 4/7, excludes Alaska and Hawaii. Selection varies by location, subject to change. While supplies last. Program subject to terms and conditions. Details at lowes.com/terms.
So good, so good, so good.
Just in and so good. Thousands of spring finds up to 70% off are at Nordstrom Rack stores now. And that means thousands of fresh reasons to rack.
How did I not know Rack has Adidas?
Vince, Calvin Klein, Rag & Bone?
Obsessed. Why do we rock? For the hottest deals.
Save on Madewell, Kate Spade New York, Sam Edelman, Joe's, and more. Great brands, great prices. That's why you rack.
And we're back here on Buckeye Talk. Stephen Means and Stefan Krajisnik. Andrew is out talking to recruits, heading up that side of things because Ohio State seems to be on a heater on the recruiting trail. They're up to 9 commits, and that includes 2 this week. And I feel like they've had like 5 in the past 20 days or something like that. But that's what happens when you win national championships, man. Everybody wants to come play for you all of a sudden. It's crazy how that works out. Get the text 614-350-3315, 2-week free trial, $3.99 after that. Stefan, I don't know if a lot of information came out of offensive line day because they have options. They might play a bunch of those options. And Tyler Bowen, I think this is the first time you've physically gotten a chance to be standing next to him as a large human being. But what I did notice is a lot of guys telling us that their weights on the spring roster depth chart were just completely off. Carter Lowe is listed at 361 pounds, I think. And no, he's listed at 6'6", 341 pounds. And he goes, yeah, that's the weight I was when I got here, because we were just traveling around and eating and not really doing anything else because, I'm an early enrollee and my team is playing for a national title. I'm down like 20 pounds from that. And he looks at Carter Lowe looks like their future starting left tackle.
Yeah.
Can I grab an early bus here and say that 2026 starting left tackle is Carter Lowe, because that kid looks it. He looks like what a starting left tackle at Ohio State is supposed to look like.
Yeah, the offensive line room as a whole, it felt like had an outstanding, a couple months there in the offseason in terms of the weight room. Like all these dudes look in great shape. And I think what's interesting is like between the transfers and the returning guys, we kind of have a vision of what this offensive line will look like. Some combination of 6 or 7 guys are going to make up the starting 5 whenever you get there. And I think we kind of know who they are. But a lot of this offensive line behind those guys is very young and very inexperienced. You talk about Carter Lowe, the Armstrong brothers, there's a lot. I mean, Ian Moore, he's in that conversation of 6 to 8 guys we think to start, but relatively inexperienced, relatively young. All of these guys that we didn't see a ton of in terms of playing time have had an outstanding offseason in terms of training and getting their weights right and just the muscle that they put on. This looks like at least in terms of conditioning and appearance, this is a deep room. And I don't know if they were there quite yet last year. Seeing Ian Moore last year, I don't know how ready he was physically to be a starter in the Big Ten. I think you could probably say that about the Armstrongs. Carter, we just talked to, even Ethan Owenyawa in this conversation, he had to lose a lot of weight when he got to Ohio State. There was a lot that had to happen behind the scenes for us to feel pretty good about the depth of this offensive line room. And a lot of that was accomplished. Coach Mick and all those people and that helped out, in the strength and conditioning side of things between the championship game. And for some of these guys, probably even dating back to, when the playoff practices started and maybe they weren't going to be playing. There's a lot that's gone on behind the scenes these last 2, 3, 4 months. And this unit looks like they've got people physically ready to play if their name is called upon.
Owenyawa said he was down 30 pounds or something like that.
He looks good.
He looks real good.
Because I remember seeing him at he got here, I think, in time for the Texas maybe practices, definitely the national championship ones.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing him being that guy is massive, but it was very clear that he was going to have to drop some weight before games got around.
It was massive, but not in a way that was encouraging. More in a way of all right, dude, what are we doing here? Right. What we got going on here? Okay. Anything else noteworthy from offensive line day you want to point out?
Am I allowed to talk about Arvell Reese?
You can talk about it. Yes, that's why I set you up that way. Go ahead.
So actually, this is kind of about the defense as a whole. Berm had asked Ian Moore about hey, it sounds like the defense might look a little different. And Ian Moore made a face where Berm literally was maybe more different than we thought. And Ian Moore was oh, maybe I shouldn't have said anything. He didn't say anything. He literally just made a face. But the core of that is that guys like Ian Moore are not facing just Jack and JT. They're facing CJ Hicks and Arvell Reese, and that's kind of interesting to hear. He said
3-4 defense.
He said Arvell Reese, and I'll paraphrase him here, was the most athletic person he's ever seen in his entire life.
Okay.
And I'm paraphrasing, but like those were the words. Like that's not maybe the exact order. Maybe he said in my entire life that's the most athletic guy. I might be changing the word.
Those are Stefan's words.
But that was the point. I promise you, Ian Moore said that. So yeah, Arvell Reese, Arvell Hicks. That's listen. We're there. Arvell Reese is winning the spring on defense, and I'm very happy that we get to see it all in action on Saturday. The first 11-on-11 drill, if Patricia doesn't go like Hicks and Reese on the edge with Caden McDonald and like Caden Curry on the inside,
show me
it's gonna be like, oh, this is exactly what we've been talking about.
Show me good. If I see a 3-4 defense on the first snap, I'm leaving practice. I'm just gonna text. It's 614-350-3315. I'm just gonna text. It's Steven. It's happening. See you on the podcast, and that's it. I'm not staying at the practice. I'm serious. I'm going to leave. If it happens later in the practice, whatever, I'll calm down. But if I see 3-4 after I've been hot taking it for weeks on the first team period snap, I'm leaving. And like Andrew's not on this spot. He's gonna come up to Stefan like, where'd Steven go? Oh, he saw a 3-4. So
I'm just gonna say 3-4.
Yeah, 3-4. We'll text him when we get home to pod. I'm leaving because that's gonna tell him. Now, whether it's good or not is a different conversation. But Arvell Reese is an idea. CJ Hicks is I don't know how we ended up talking about defense on the spot, but so many of these guys. Yeah, thank you, Ian. So many of these guys that we're talking about are still ideas and hypotheticals. If they are going to play into those ideas in terms of how they deploy this defense, it starts revving up engines. That's why it's intriguing. If it's just a normal 4-2-5, there's things to get excited about, of course, but it's more of what we know. I don't know whenever Ohio State has ever ran a 3-4 or a base defense where it only had 3 down linemen. So that, I'm just saying, man, if I see it, I'm going to tap Stefan on the shoulder. I'm going to go, text me when you guys are ready. And he knows where I'm going. I'm going home to get my microphone. I'm going home to get the microphone. That's it. And Ian Moore is how I got on this rant because he brought up Arvell Reese. That's about it. I wanted to physically see these guys. Everybody looks good. Everything sounded good. Everything sounds like ideas that don't worry me because there have been times in the past where you'll hear a coach say something about what they might try and you're like, okay. Are you doing that from a place of strength or a place of weakness? And it feels like the offensive line, for the first time really since its tackles were Paris Johnson and DeJuan Jones, everything they're doing right now is out of a place of strength. Plus the recruiting is pretty well. So right now, 4 days into April, I think you should be feeling good about where the offensive line is going to be now and also in the future. Now, granted, let's see what happens when Colin Simmons is on the other side. He can go sack your quarterback. But it's I don't know. Should I be more worried about a group where Ryan Day wasn't glowing about the tackle play so far, and the starting quarterback this year, no matter who it is, even if you don't think it's Julian Sand, is not a veteran 6'4", 240-pound human being, grown man. It's at best 6'2", 210-pound human being. So your offensive line has to be a little bit more surety. Are we going too far positive with the offensive line will be fine conversation, given who they have to protect this year?
Maybe, and it might not even be so much Julian Sand or Lincoln Keenels as it is, and this is maybe where Ryan Day, maybe some of his concern comes from, is whoever starts at tackle for Ohio State has never started at tackle at Ohio State, and that's new, right? Like Ian Moore hasn't started a game yet. Philip Daniels has started in the Big Ten, but not at Ohio State. Ethan Owanyama is coming from Rice, and Austin Servold hasn't started yet at tackle. So I could see where maybe he's got some more hesitations at tackle. I think my excitement, I guess, and maybe positivity just comes from, I think by the time we get to late August, and definitely by the time we get to October and November, these guys are going to be fine and fitting well into their roles.
Ethan Owanyama played Texas at Texas in 2023 as a starting right tackle, but that was week one of then. Since then, the best team he has played, he played SMU last year too, but SMU wasn't a playoff team, even in a 12 team. But he has not played someone of the caliber of what Texas is since he played Texas 2 years ago. By the time they play that game, Philip Daniels, I don't remember if Minnesota played like elite football teams the last 4 games of the year when Philip Daniels was their starting right tackle. So that's where it is an element of you haven't started at Ohio State, but you also haven't played against the caliber of players you're going to play in week one. So I just wanted to throw that out there because I don't want to be too positive. I don't want to be too negative either. I just want to make sure we're balanced with this conversation. But so far, I like what I'm seeing and hearing from the offensive line, and that's what it sounds like you're at too, Stefan, is we like what we're seeing. We like what we're hearing. It's headed in the right direction. On Saturday, we get to see some level of play that's going to tell us more, because seeing and hearing is one thing. Seeing it in action and hearing it in action is a different thing, and that's what Saturday will be all about.
I want to ask you one question unrelated to the offensive line, but a texter recently texted us that kind of sparked something. It doesn't have to be long, but we'll talk receivers next week when we talk to them. Who do you have right now as the 4th receiver on this team? In the context of this is Ryan from the 513 said that he's seen some clips on social media of Mylan Graham, and he's getting real excited about him. And I responded saying, I think he is the 4th receiver right now.
I think Bryson Rogers is the 4th receiver right now. Do I think he's the 4th receiver by the time they play a football game? I guess I can't wait till we talk to wide receiver. Can Mylan Graham play in the slot?
I feel like he would work there.
Because I think he looks like Garrett Wilson, and Garrett Wilson spent his 2nd year at Ohio State playing in the slot. And the reason I'm asking that is Bryson Rogers is this 4th guy up because he knows multiple positions. He is technically the backup slot receiver behind Brandon Ennis. And he's also, he started a game at outside receiver when
Carnell was out.
Right? So he's done it before, which puts him ahead. But they are putting a lot of Mylan Graham clips out there. And nothing is totality. Believe half of what you see and none of what you hear, especially you know what I'm saying? Like, you take everything with a grain of salt. But Ohio State doesn't just promote anybody. When they were promoting Marvin Harrison Jr. going into 2022 and calling him Super Marv, it wasn't for no reason. When they were putting out clips of JJ making unbelievable one-handed catches with people grabbing his jersey off of him in practices, it wasn't for no reason. And it ended up taking him somewhere, right? There's a reason why every single clip you see of a quarterback throwing the ball, they make sure they include both Julian and Lincoln throws in those clips. There's a reason why whenever there's an interception, you don't see who throws the ball. There's a reason they keep putting Mylan Graham clips out there. And those catches that they're putting out there aren't on one of them was on Aaron Scott, but a couple of them were also on guys we think are going to be starters. So I'll say this. They're 4-5. I'll cop out answer. They are 4-5, and I think it depends on who comes off the field in a situation where somebody has to miss a play, which one goes out there. If it's Brandon Ennis, I think they go with Bryson Rogers. If it's JJ or Carnell, I think they go with Mylan.
Yeah, I guess to follow up on your point there, March 7th, they posted a picture of some workouts, and the guys featured in these images are Caleb Downs, Brandon Ennis, and Austin Servold. So everything's intentional. It's no surprise we see, a guy like Austin Servold pop up in these photos that they just randomly post with like vague captions.
No, everything they do is intentional. So if they're putting this much Mylan Graham stuff out there, that means he is doing good things in practice. And the good news is the next pod you hear from us, We're going to probably be talking a lot of Mylan Graham when it talks to wide receivers because we're just not going to be talking about JJ. He's not. Listen, if JJ does more than 2 periods of football on Saturday, I will be shocked. And the second one will be like, why is JJ out there again? They had a tough Thursday practice, and I think that was on purpose because they know that Saturday is more about being a little bit more fun, more loose, more entertaining because you're going to have a bunch of students in there, but also they don't want us seeing anything that they don't want to be public information yet. So they went rough. They went super hard on Thursday to kind of reel it back in on Saturday a little bit. And I'm sure probably next week they'll have a hard practice early in the week before we get into the spring game stuff and coaches clinic and all that stuff. So get the text 614-350-3315, 2-week free trial, $3.99. After that, we'll be in the building for all of practice on Saturday. For Stefan Krajisnik, I'm Stephen Means, and that was Buckeye Talk.